Fighting for the values that make Nebraska the good life. This is Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
72%. Secretary of State Bob Evans predicts around 72% of or more of the 1.2 million voters registered in Nebraska are going to cast a vote in this election. Hopefully we'll finalize everything after tomorrow. Maybe it'll be days, weeks, months. I don't know. So far, 332,455 registered voters have successfully cast their ballots in Nebraska. If you're one of those, congratulations. Way to go. If not, hopefully tomorrow you'll be heading to the polls, and we'll want to hear from you. Extended coverage right here on Drive Time Nebraska from 5 to 7 p.m. We'd love to hear what your experience has been, whether you've already voted. Love to know if there are lines, how the process went, or if you go tomorrow. I'd love to know. We all would love to know how things are looking out there in the field as we're sitting behind the mic here, bringing you coverage. So 72,049 voters have voted early in person at county election offices. 260,406 voters have voted early by mail, including voters in mail-in counties and precincts, of which I am one. I dropped mine. I got it in the mail, and then I dropped it off in a nice box because I trust the security of what they're doing here in Lancaster County. So tomorrow is the final day that voters can return their early voting ballots in to their county offices. Polls close at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time, so make sure you're not late. If you're in line, they are going to allow you to vote. So if you're in line by 8, you're not going to get pushed out of the way. Also, remember to bring your ID. IDs are big this year. You know, I did it, when in the primary, I went in and showed my ID. Stephen Hardesty, by the way, is producing for us today. Wyatt is tanning his hide down in Cabo, I think, or somewhere where it's nice and sunny and warm. But anyway, Steve, cast that ballot in the primary, had to bring ID. Everything went smooth. I mean, they were very helpful. And the process was really easy. I didn't know how that was going to go, but I didn't have any problem. Did you vote in person?
I did. I voted in person in the primary as well. The same experience as you. Showed them my ID, got my ballot, in and out.
Yeah,
it's seamless.
Yep. And if you got your ballot early and you submitted it, you can check to see online with the Nebraska Secretary of State's office voter lookup site to make sure that they actually got it and received it. I'm going to put that link in the podcast description and also the social media description here. You can click on that. It's pretty cool. I did that and mine's in. Mine's already counted. So that's really cool. Races continue to have their fair share of misleading advertising and information, and it's hitting the airwaves. I mean, we've been dealing with this for months now. But that race between Senator Deb Fischer and Dan Osborne, I'm telling you what, that thing's gotten heated. There's just a lot of false information, misleading ad claims, outside money. So we're going to have Senator Fischer here in just a few minutes on the show, and she's going to share with us her opinion about all this stuff, plus why she's running for another term, because I know Dan Osborne has really pushed that issue. And we're also going to find out if Dan Osborne's claim that Senator Fischer is not a real conservative and not a real true rancher. Interesting allegations as we lead up to election day tomorrow. If you got a question or comment throughout the show, you can call the Hunt Irrigation Talk and Text line 402-479-1400. You can also comment on social media. And again, tomorrow we're going to have extended coverage right here on Drive Time Nebraska from 5 to 7 o'clock. We're going to take your calls. We're going to hear from candidates. We've got them all lined up. We're also going to have commentary and insight from former executive director of the Nebraska Republican Party and political consultant Bud Seinhorst and chairman of the Lancaster County Republican Party, Jack Riggins. All right, well, coming up after the break, we'll be joined by Senator Deb Fischer, get her take on the heated race that she's in right now with Dan Osborne. If you have a question or comment, again, call or text 402-479-1400. Plus, your chance to play Fantasy Huskers is right around the corner. Thanks so much for listening to Drive Time Nebraska.
Love KLIN? Tell us why with a voice message in the free KLIN app.
Whose team has Dan Osborne on? the D.C. Democrats. Osborne says he loves Bernie Sanders. He promised to vote to pass their Green New Deal, which would destroy farming and ranching in Nebraska. And Osborne is on record saying he would reward illegal aliens entering our state with amnesty and Social Security benefits.
There definitely needs to be a clear path to citizenship. Just give him a damn Social Security card.
The Green New Deal would cost us our jobs. Illegal immigration costs us our security. If Dan Osborne wins, we lose. But Deb Fischer and President Trump are on our team. Deb will work with President Trump to secure our border. And she'll fight the left's big government agenda, threatening our jobs and freedoms. Trump's choice and Nebraska's voice. Deb Fischer for Senate.
I'm Deb Fischer. I'm running for Senate, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Fisher Victory Fund. Join Deb Fischer's team. Give today. FisherVictoryFund.com.
The following bulletin is paid for by Retired Americans PAC. Dateline Omaha. Election Day 2024. Nebraskans head to the polls. Hundreds of thousands of them rely on the Social Security and Medicare they earned. Do they know Senator Deb Fischer voted to raise the Social Security retirement age, cut benefits, and slash Medicare? That she voted against capping insulin costs at $35? Nebraska's seniors are asking, who will fight for our financial security and the benefits we paid for? Dan Osborne, veteran, works for a living, independent candidate for U.S. Senate. Unlike Deb Fischer, he's not funded by the drug lobby and big corporations. On November 5th, it's your turn to vote to protect Social Security and Medicare. Vote Dan Osborne. Retired Americans PAC paid and is responsible for the content of this advertising. RetiredAmericansPAC.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
This is Independent Dan Osborne, candidate for U.S. Senate in Nebraska, and I approve this message. My dad is my hero. A Republican county commissioner and veteran, an old school Nebraska conservative like me. My dad taught me my values, that hard work and your word are sacred, that it's a sin to waste another man's dollar. Politicians like Deb Fischer don't understand that. Deb's done nothing on the border, failed to pass a farm bill. Deb's gotten 10 times richer in Washington, while she oversaw the national debt double. Deb has lied to us. Even local Republican parties called Deb out for lying. Now she's lying about me. I'm a veteran. My word is my bond. Trust me with your vote, and I'll fight like hell to secure the border, protect Social Security for every American citizen, cut your taxes, and take on corruption. I know what it's like to put in 8 hours work for 8 hours pay, and I will never waste your tax dollars or betray your trust. Paid for by Osborne for Senate.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. Disagree with Doug? The guests? The topic? Call or text 402-479-1400 now to be a part of the show. KLIN weather brought to you by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Mainly cloudy and a bit breezy tonight with rain likely. Low temperature in the mid-40s. Tuesday, Election Day, mostly cloudy with rain likely in the morning, then decreasing clouds and dry in the afternoon. A bit breezy with a high temperature in the mid-50s. From the 1011 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brandon Rector.
KLIN Time Saver Traffic, delivered by Paisanos, Lincoln's best brick oven pizza.
On the downhill side of our drive time traffic, no accidents or major delays reported. We do have several construction projects and utility projects. We'll want to watch for lane shifts and lane closures. Keep in mind, West A Street, Southwest 40th to Coddington, local access only for paving and sewer project. Do use extra caution with our wet driving conditions. Surfaces can be slick. Make sure the headlights are on. If you come across anything that slows you down, call the traffic hotline 402-479-1414. Lincoln's listening to Time Saver Traffic.
Training threes on the issues that truly matter to Nebraskans, with the occasional technical or two. This is Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
Calls, texts, comments are all coming in. Thank you so much for responding. We appreciate that. James just says, really getting tired of Osborne's misleading commercials. What is Retired Americans PAC? Bob called in too and was asking about where all this money is coming from. And then we also had somebody say, hey, if I've got a ballot and I need to submit it, can I do it at my polling location? No. You need to go to the election office in your county, or you can drop it off at a drop box. So just FYI on that. All right, a big thanks to our title sponsor, Lincoln Coin and Bullion, taking care of my gold, silver, platinum, and palladium needs well over a decade. Appreciate them so much. And there's no sales tax on gold and silver. There's no capital gains now in Nebraska on gold and silver, which is really cool. Maybe you have something to sell. Maybe you inherited something. Maybe you have sterling flatware. They will buy it. So just call them up. They work by appointment only, 402-327-2853, or you can go to the website at lincolncoinandbullion.com. All right, last Friday, we dug under the surface, behind the curtain, to address the misleading and false ads railed against Lancaster County Commissioner candidate David Russell. David joined me along with City Councilman Tom Duden and former Nebraska State Patrol veteran Tom Nesbitt, and it was a powerful show. Chelsea Johnson, I had asked her to come on the show. She had declined to do that. So if you missed the podcast, I highly recommend that you listen to this one. If you missed it, go to klin.com or go to your favorite podcast service.
Well, tomorrow's the big day, as those who haven't voted yet are going to be going to the polls. And one of those candidates who's been working hard to campaign across the state to get her message out is Senator Deb Fischer. So, Senator, welcome back to the show. We appreciate you being here.
Always good to be with you, Doug. Thank you.
You bet. Well, Senator Fischer, your race with your opponent, Dan Osborne, who is, by the way, a union leader, seems to be pretty tight right now, and his campaign's pulling out all the stops, as you know. Osborne's already acknowledged that he has to, quote, peel off some conservatives, end quote, to win an election that really could determine the party's control in the Senate. Now, I've seen comments from some Republicans saying that they're considering voting for Dan Osborne because they think he's independent and will stand up for conservative values. Are we being misled by him?
Oh, definitely. From the very beginning, I think Dan Osborne has been trying to fool Nebraskans. He's come in with about 23 million in attack ads against me in the last 2.5 months. And we just learned a fourth super PAC is coming in for him in these last few days before the election. So it's just a lot of outside money. Of course, his donors are from Act Blue, which is a Democrat fundraising site. That's where he gets a lot of it. He gets a lot of it from Kamala Harris donors, from George Soros type billionaires. But we've been able to counter some of that by letting him speak in his own words in our ads. So you'll hear him say that illegal immigrants should have social security cards. Excuse my language, but he says, just give them a damn card. Yeah. And then they get benefits. He wants a pathway to citizenship. The NRA has come out. They've given him an F rating because he supports red flag laws. He talks about being pro-life, but yet he says that Roe should be codified. That's not pro-life. So it just goes on and on. He's trying to fool Nebraskans with us being able to get out there with some ads to define him. Nebraskans understand who he is.
Well, the research I've done in regards to go back to the funding part of this, it says nearly 200 donors who recently contributed more than $1,000, adding up to almost $400,000. Just 6 were Nebraskans. I mean, that to me, and then it starts listing off Democrats who are giving to his campaign. And I don't want the person representing me in the state of Nebraska to be controlled by those outside of the state. And I don't think that's fair.
Well, it's a national race. The Senate race is a national race, but he has very little support, donor support from within the state of Nebraska. And in fact, if you look at his social media, when he posts pictures where he's supposedly out in the state traveling around, he never shows himself really in a group talking to people. You can look at my social media, my personal Facebook page. I post a lot on there. And, I'm out talking to hundreds of Nebraskans every week. But, he's got that ad where he plays it like, he's got the maps up and he plays it like he's doing all these town halls and things. I'm the one out there talking to Nebraskans, just as I have for many years here. I had a friend tell me in Okalala a couple nights ago, she was checking it out, and Mr. Osborne had 2 people at his event. He is an unknown quantity. And he's thinks that all this money, $23 million, is the way he can define himself to Nebraskans. But that's not going to work as Nebraskans hear more about him.
Yeah, I've watched you for years. I mean, his ads say, you're not holding any town halls. You're meeting with people face to face, belly to belly, in their businesses, in the schools. And like you said, you post that on social media. And to me, you're getting as much, in my opinion, a deeper understanding of what Nebraskans are going through because you're actually having one-on-one conversations.
Yeah, and I was just up in Wisner earlier today, and being able to meet with a group of people and have those conversations one-on-one, but also addressing the group and answering questions. We've always done that. People invite me to go places and discuss things with people I do. I met with some folks in the Jewish community in Omaha yesterday. And had a good town hall like event with them, and they were asking questions. We do it all the time, and so I think it's just telling that people really are just learning about him now, and it's, as I said, it's in his own words. He seems to be following a Democrat pattern. I got a kick out of President Trump with his driving the garbage truck because
Yes.
we were called garbage. We were called deplorables. We've been called racists. We've been called fascists. And Dan Osborne called my volunteers Hitler Youth.
Yes, he did.
That's a pattern. That's a Democrat pattern that's out there. And to call young people who are here volunteering in a campaign in the democratic process Hitler Youth, that was just uncalled for. And then he tried to excuse it by saying, well, he was a Navy man. I'm sorry. My uncle fought in World War II. He was a Navy man. He fought Hitler in World War II. There is no way he ever would have said anything like that. And he certainly would never have blamed the Navy for him saying something like that.
All right. Speaking of his own words, I'm looking at a flyer right now that was mailed to my home. And this is a quote from Dan Osborne. Deb Fischer is lying. Here's the truth. Fischer's a career politician and a fake conservative. Are you a fake conservative?
Oh, my gosh. No, I am a solid Nebraska conservative. I have a voting record from my time in the legislature, from my time in the United States Senate. I have to justify every vote I make to the citizens of this state. I am now faced with someone who has absolutely no record, none, of public service. And so he can say and do what he wants, but he seems to be focused on nothing but attacks on me. We don't have any kind of conversation from him, hearing any kind of depth on any issue from him. And that's risky. That's risky from somebody who won't even tell us who he's going to vote for president.
Well, I'm going to get to that, and we're going to get to leadership as well. But the last few weeks, he's been starting to flip-flop quite a bit, from calling Trump, quote, embarrassing and incompetent, to now saying that I'm where Trump is on corruption, China, and the border. And in the final days of this campaign, he is suddenly embracing the former president, even promising to help him build the border wall. What's your take on his sudden change of heart here?
I think he's just like a number of Democrat candidates that we see. Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, Bob Casey in Pennsylvania, Sherrod Brown in Ohio. They're Democrat senators who are seeing that President Trump's doing great in their states. And although they have never voted for anything for President Trump, now they're saying, oh, but President Trump signed a bill that I passed and we work well together. He's just trying to cozy up to President Trump, too. I get a kick out of his ad about the border bill. President Trump was against that border bill, and it was not a border security bill. I happened to vote against it too, because it did not have money in it to build a wall. It did not end catch and release. It did not hold Joe Biden accountable for his misuse of the parole system that we have for immigration. So when people ask me about that, I just say, I don't think Mr. Osborne knows how to read a legislative bill, because he obviously didn't read this one, and he doesn't even know that President Trump's against that.
Well, like you said just a minute ago, there's a quote. It says, quote, from him, there's a good chance I won't vote for president, end quote. And he was saying that both Biden and Trump were too old. And I guess for me, when I read something like that, voting to me is a sacred right that we have as Americans. How reckless is this?
Yeah, he has said a lot of things. You know, he talked about, well, in an ad, I said, it's all his own words. In an ad, he said, that I opposed the border security because I didn't vote for that bill because I was in the pocket of Big Ag. And then just yesterday, he called me a fake rancher. We had a press conference. Yeah.
I didn't hear that one.
Yeah. We had a press conference yesterday with Nebraska Cattlemen and Farm Bureau and farm and ranch families behind me. And first of all, I will tell you, any farm wife, any ranch wife, they're never going to vote for him now because he has no understanding of what family farms are. I've cleaned out calving sheds. Don't tell me I don't know how to work. Right. I've worked cattle. I've moved cattle. I help with branding. And the families that were there, some are seventh generation families here in Nebraska. I don't usually speak about being attacked personally. And this I didn't view as really being attacked personally. It was attack on our family farmers and ranchers. And it just shows he is ignorant of the economic engine of the state of Nebraska, and that's agriculture. And that is based in our family farms and ranches. And I can tell you, ag people, rural people in this state, he has no knowledge of rural Nebraska, are very, very upset about comments like that.
Well, absolutely. I grew up on a hog farm in Albion, and
you know what work is.
I know what it is. Yeah, I've been out there.
You know what work is. Then you bet. You bet.
Okay, let's take a quick break, and when we return, I'll ask the senator about how the state of the money, how it's impacting our state, these races, where this money's coming from, local races, why she's running again for Senate. I know that's a big question that people have, and I think you're going to enjoy her answer to that. Plus, your chance to play Fantasy Huskers is up next. We're going to give you a keyword. Get ready to text it in, 402-479-1400. Cities from across the state, they're listening to Drive Time Nebraska.
Get the news and insights.
It's a source I can trust.
1499.3 KLIN.
Unsure what to do with inherited coins or bullion? Lincoln Coin & Bullion provides line item appraisals and secure appointments. Call to discuss or schedule an appointment.
Hi, this is State Senator Carolyn Bozin. Education is a cornerstone for strong, vibrant communities. I voted for the largest investment in education in Nebraska history. As a state senator, wife, and mom, I believe Nebraska is a great place to work and raise a family. My husband Reggie and I are local family business owners and understand the valuable role of education in growing our community. This is Carolyn Bozin, and I will continue to support education in the legislature. Vote Carolyn Bozin on November 5th. Paid for by Bozin for Legislature.
Across Nebraska, voters will have the chance to end the current government abortion ban. The government shouldn't be making decisions for families' health care, but right now they are. Ending the ban takes 2 votes, a vote against 434, the first initiative, and then a vote for 439, the last initiative. It's only this combination that will finally get the government out of the personal medical decisions of Nebraska families. Voting against 434 and for 439 ensures that when there's a medical emergency, it's Nebraska families who decide what to do, not the government. This vote against 434 and for 439 makes it so our Nebraska doctors can treat every patient. The government put this ban in place, stripping Nebraska families of their freedom, but you can end it with 2 votes. The first against 434 and then vote for 439. Paid for by Protect Our Rights.
For radical liberal Kamala Harris, there's no compromising her extreme positions.
What concessions would be on the table? Religious exemptions, for example? Is that something that you would consider?
I don't think we should be making concessions.
That's Kamala Harris, stating that doctors and nurses should be forced to perform abortions, even if they have moral or religious objections. Kamala Harris has always been extreme on abortion, supporting a radical policy of no limits and no protections up until the moment of birth. That's why Kamala Harris supports Initiative 439 in Nebraska. With its intentionally vague language, Initiative 439 eliminates common sense protections for women and children. No parental notification for minors, no requirement that abortions be performed by doctors, and no protections for women from pressure and coercion. Reject Kamala Harris's extreme agenda. On your ballot, vote for Initiative 434 and no on Initiative 439. That's 4-4 and no on 9.
Paid for by Jim Scheer for Regent.
Vote for the 2024 Stormwater Bond. Stormwater improvements protect Lincoln's homes, businesses, and families from the dangers of flooding. These improvements also benefit Lincoln's public safety, improve our quality of life, and provide long-term sustainability. By voting for the Stormwater Bond, you'll help fund 20 projects across Lincoln. These projects will help protect our city from the devastating effects of floods. Please vote for the 2024 Stormwater Bond, paid by the 2024 Lincoln Liaison Committee.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. More of the show coming up on 1499.3 KLIN. KLIN weather brought to you by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Mainly cloudy and a bit breezy tonight with rain likely. Low temperature in the mid-40s. Tuesday, Election Day, mostly cloudy with rain likely in the morning, then decreasing clouds and dry in the afternoon. A bit breezy with high temperature in the mid-50s. From the 1011 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brandon Rector.
KLIN Time Saver Traffic, delivered by Paisanos, Lincoln's best brick oven pizza.
Wrapping up our traffic reports, we do have a new slow spot, South 56 and Madeline Road. That's just north of Pine Lake Road on South 56. Southbound lanes likely closed for an accident. Southbound will want to choose an alternate route, South 56 and Madeline. Otherwise, most traffic moving well. A few volume slowdowns. It looks like O Street running a little slow from downtown to about 48th Street. Do use caution with our wet conditions. Surfaces can be slick. Make sure the headlights are on. Keeping you moving with Time Saver Traffic. I'm Chris Lofgren.
Tackling the issues that truly matter to Nebraskans head on. With the occasional targeting call, this is Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
Matt, thank you so much for calling in. We appreciate that. Hopefully Senator Fischer answered your question for you. All right, it's time to play Fantasy Huskers, brought to you by Nebraska Sign Company. It's your chance to put your name in the hat to win some great prizes from Valentino's, Best of Big Red, $50 each, which is pretty cool. So the keyword today is rake, R-A-K-E. Like what they told me was like, it's bye week, right? So now you can do all of the chores that you were supposed to do on Saturday. You're going to have time to do those. So text rake into 402-479-1400 for your chance to win. Again, the Huskers have a bye week. And then up next, USC in California. I think they just announced a game time around 3. Is that right,
3
Steve?
o'clock kickoff on the 16th.
All right. So we'll have coverage starting at 11 a.m. Right here on KLIN. All right. Well, today we're joined by Senator Deb Fischer.
Let's go back to, all this money's being poured in, obviously, because it's a Senate race, but I think a lot of the country is watching this race because they know that this could change control of power of the Senate. How important is this race for the Republicans to retain?
Well, we need to have a Republican majority in the United States Senate. We have 49 Republican senators now. We need to pick up 2. We will get West Virginia. We should be able to win Montana. John Tester, the Democrat up there, is not doing well. So this, obviously, I feel good about the race, and I believe I'm going to keep my seat, but we've got to get people out to vote. It's important. It's important. A text was sent out a couple nights ago, and it was a fundraising text. And it said that Dan Osborne will caucus with Chuck Schumer. He's the hope for the Democrats to keep the majority in the United States Senate, that he would caucus with the Democrats. He is denying that. He won't say who he's going to conference with, or he says he won't caucus with either party. But again, I think that just shows how risky it is to vote for him, because he won't even get committee assignments unless he caucuses with either the Republicans or the Democrats. So I think he's being very disingenuous with Nebraska voters when he makes comments like that. He has to have some understanding on how the Senate works, I would hope. But it's just amazing, as you said, the flip-flops, the trying to cozy up to Donald Trump. I am the only endorsed candidate in this race for my Senate seat, this Nebraska Senate seat. And, it's what bothers me the most, Doug, is just not being honest with Nebraskans.
Yeah, this campaign cycle, all the way from the president race down to local, commissioner races, which we've had on the show. Outside money's coming in for even the commissioner races, and the misleading ads that are out there blows me away. Let's change things a little bit. Let's talk about leadership. And you talked about the committee assignments. You serve on the Armed Forces Committee in the Senate and have seniority. Explain to our listeners your leadership positioning on this committee and why it's so important to both us here in Nebraska and the rest of the country.
Well, I am second in seniority on the Armed Services Committee, and that just puts Nebraska in a great position. I am also the second seniority right now on Commerce Committee, which has a really broad jurisdiction. Both of these committees are important for the state of Nebraska. And just to be able to hold those positions, to have good committee assignments, good subcommittee assignments, being able to hire competent professional staff. We have a lot of great staff. I think every Nebraskan would say my office has absolutely wonderful staff, and they know their subject matter. And I'm able to get good staff like that because of my senior positions on those committees. Good people want to come and work for someone who is able to have that kind of influence in trying to get the agenda set and trying to bring forth issues that are serious, important issues. Obviously with STRATCOM, with Offutt, with our missiles, ICBM missiles out in the Kimball area, with the program we're working on modernization now with the Air Force on to get the Sentinel missiles to replace the Minuteman III, basically, and also modernize the silos out there. That's important. It helps our National Guard. It helps being a member of the Appropriations Committee. I'm the only Republican on Armed Service and the Appropriations Committee, to be able to bring our taxpayer dollars back here to the state of Nebraska so that it helps with property tax relief. It helps our communities with their drinking water, with our airports, with runways, with roads, with bridges. It matters. It matters in the Senate. And I think people who understand that and how that works appreciate the fact that, I've been able to get to those positions for the state of Nebraska. Jim Exon was the last senator to be elected to a third term. And I think a lot of people would tell you that he was able to do a lot for the state as well. So I just think it's really important, and it played into my decision that Bruce and I made together to run again, to be able to do more, to be more effective, and listen to the concerns of people around this state and try and work together to get some good, solid solutions to them.
Yeah, he's been saying, he's been pushing this dialogue too about you being a career politician. But the more I've dug into this and I understand where you are, our world is literally on the verge of World War III. And with everything going on in the Middle East, with Russia, with China, We need to have people who know what's going on to be able to protect us. And I believe that's where you stand. I'd rather have you in there knowing what has been going on so that you can protect us than somebody coming in fresh out of nowhere and not knowing exactly what's happening.
Well, thank you. I think that's important also. I had a couple friends from Kimball contact me, or from Sydney contact me last day or so. Mr. Osborne had been out there, and he'd been there earlier, and he didn't know anything about the ICBMs, the Sentinel project out there, but he told the people he would study up on it. Well, he was just back yesterday or the day before, and he was asked about it, and he hadn't done any homework on it. And I mean, that's a big deal for people out there to have those missile silos as their neighbors, and they are very attuned to what's going on there. It's just it's risky to put in somebody that is not honest on where he stands and does not have the depth and knowledge on any of these really, really important vital issues that are facing our state and are facing our country.
Well, as we wrap things up here, I'd love to know your positioning on our military. A lot of our listeners are veterans or are currently serving as well, and their families. Where do you stand on pay raises for our troops, funding for OFID, obviously, and healthcare for our veterans?
Oh, that's the first duty of a federal government. That's in the Constitution. That the first duty of Congress is to provide for the common defense. We take care of our military. We have an all-volunteer force. In our National Defense Authorization Act this year that we've passed out of the Senate Committee on Armed Services, there's a 4.5% increase pay raise in the salary for our military. We are always looking at housing concerns. We want to make sure we can continue to improve the housing that across the world on all of our bases for our military men and women. We want to help them and their families be able to adjust easier. So there's lots of programs out there to help not just adjusting and being helped while your loved one's deployed, but also just daily help when the whole family is deployed, basically, and being able to have the resources so the families can reach out. We want to take care of our military. These are the people that sacrifice the most. They're the ones that step forward. And then our veterans, of course, we want to provide for our veterans. I work with a lot of veterans organizations. I work with our county veteran service officers that are in every county around this state. We meet all the time. Just got a bill signed by President Biden for veterans. It was brought to my attention that they couldn't use their GI Bill at a new CDL school. And so worked across the aisle and able to get a bill passed, a standalone bill passed and signed by the president, so they will be able to do that. I mean, it's things like that help them in their daily lives, and we need to continue to do that. And then just to make sure that we understand the threats that this country faces, and we make sure that our military have the resources they need so they can complete their missions. And that goes into modernization of our nuclear triad, that goes into shipbuilding, that goes into being able to have munitions capability, the production capability for new and more advanced munitions, make sure our military has the training that they need, that we don't cut them short on their training time so that they are prepared if they are called to duty. It's just everything that, we focus on there. That is the number one priority.
All right. Well, as people get ready to get out and vote tomorrow, any last words for our listeners?
Well, I'm just humbled to have been able to serve Nebraskans in the United States Senate. We've worked together on making Nebraska a stronger state, on looking for solutions to help families. And I would ask for your vote to continue fighting for you in the United States Senate.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate that. And let's get you across the goal line.
Great. Thank you. Everybody get out and vote.
All right, there's still time to play Fantasy Huskers by texting in the word RAKE, R-A-K-E, to 402-479-1400 before Steve will help us pick our winners. So that'll be fun. All right, thanks so much for listening on your drive home today. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Send in your thoughts to the KLIN team anytime with a Hunt Irrigation talk and text line at 402-479-1400. Hunt Irrigation, the water smart company.
Nebraska men's basketball is coming up next on 1499.3 KLIN.
We spoke to people all over Nebraska about Deb Fischer and Dan Osborne. Here's what they had to say.
Deb Fischer hasn't done the things that she said she was going to do.
Deb Fischer just seems like she's bought and paid for by big corporations.
Feels like a lot of insider trading to me.
All she wants to do is keep her job so she can keep making millions.
There's absolutely no one like Dan Osborne in D.C.
I like the fact that he's a veteran, an independent voice.
They've got hundreds of millionaires in Congress. How about one mechanic?
Retired career politician's PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising, not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
As our voice on the University of Nebraska Board of Regents, Republican Rob Schaefer is getting the job done. Schaefer is working to keep tuition affordable, hold the line on spending, and ensure the university better reflects our conservative values. That's why the Nebraska Farm Bureau and U.S. Senators Deb Fischer and Pete Ricketts have endorsed Rob Schaefer. For experienced leadership and conservative common sense, vote Republican Rob Schaefer for Regent.
Paid for by Rob Schaefer for Board of Regents.
Across Nebraska, voters will have the chance to end the current government abortion ban. The government shouldn't be making decisions for families' health care, but right now they are. Ending the ban takes 2 votes. A vote against 434, the first initiative, and then a vote for 439, the last initiative. It's only this combination that will finally get the government out of the personal medical decisions of Nebraska families. Voting against 434 and for 439 ensures that when there's a medical emergency, it's Nebraska families who decide what to do, not the government. This vote against 434 and for 439 makes it so our Nebraska doctors can treat every patient. The government put this ban in place, stripping Nebraska families of their freedom, but you can end it with 2 votes. The first against 434, and then vote for 439. Paid for by Protect Our Rights.
There are just 2 new red trucks left out there in Trucks and Bucks. Visit a Nebraska Lottery retailer and play today. Top prize odds 1 in 336,000.
You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald. More of the show coming up on 1499.3 KLIN. KLIN weather brought to you by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, Air, and Electrical.
Mainly cloudy and a bit breezy tonight with rain likely. Low temperature in the mid-40s. Tuesday, Election Day, mostly cloudy with rain likely in the morning, then decreasing clouds and dry in the afternoon. A bit breezy with a high temperature in the mid-50s. From the 1011 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Brandon Rector.
Raising the roof on the issues that truly matter to Nebraskans. With the occasional net violation. You're listening to Drive Time Nebraska with Doug Fitzgerald on 1499.3 KLIN.
All right, Matt, congratulations. You are our winner today in Fantasy Huskers. Now you have to answer this question. So the last question was, when was the first turnover going to be and how quick during the Nebraska UCLA game? We're not going to, Steve and I have already said, we're not going to bring up the UCLA game. We're not doing it.
Not going to.
We're looking forward.
No.
We're looking forward. Anyway, the question you have to answer, Matt, and text back to us is, which AP Top 25 team will score the most points this week? And yeah, it's going to be cool. So you got your name now in the hat to possibly win Valentino's and Best of Big Red. Congratulations again to Matt. Next chance to win is tomorrow morning with LNK Today with Jack and Friends, and they will walk you through the same process. All right. Well, we're excited. I'm excited to be able to announce that John Barry is now a published author. And I know what that means. I know how big of a accomplishment that is. I'm a fellow author myself. And it takes time. It takes effort. I'm curious to talk to him. We're going to actually have him on the show on Friday to find out just the process of writing the book. But I'm proud to announce that his new and powerful book is called Veteran-Led Leadership Lessons from the Trenches by John Barry, CEO of Barry Law, and former U.S. Army platoon leader. And he draws on his military experience and teaches how discipline, urgency, and efficiency can help you in your business and in your life. And as Veterans Day approaches, no better time to learn from a veteran that's leading both in the courtroom and also in the boardroom as well. So Veteran-Led is a perfect guide for business leaders and veterans alike. You can pre-order your copy. Just go to barrylaw.com to do that. So yeah, check it out at barrylaw.com. All right, coming up for the rest of the week on Drive Time Nebraska tomorrow, I'm excited about this because I appreciate our leadership here at Broadcast House. Amy's allowed me to have an extra hour, and I've asked for an extra hour just because we don't have a lot of talk time here when we get going. So we've got our show going from 5 to 7 p.m. on election night. We're going to take your calls because we want to know exactly what's happening out there in the polls, whether you voted early or not. Would love to get your comments on that. We're going to hear from candidates throughout the show for just a couple of minutes for their last appeal as the polls get ready to close at 8 o'clock. And then we're going to have political commentary throughout the show, the entire show, from former executive director and political consultant Bud Seinhorst and former, current chairman of the Lancaster County Republican Party, Jack Riggins. Wednesday, we're going to leave open. Steve and I were just talking. I'm waiting to see what happens tomorrow before I schedule anything for Wednesday. So we may have a talk and text Wednesday because I have a feeling Tuesday night's going to be late. And I think we're going to have a lot to talk about come Wednesday. Then Thursday, I'm going to be broadcasting live from Wilderness Ridge right here in Lincoln. I've Got a Name has their annual fundraiser and awareness night. I've Got a Name, by the way, is my top nonprofit that I support. Their mission is to end sex trafficking in Lincoln and across Nebraska. So we're broadcasting live from there. Brian Olson will be there as well from The Voice. He'll be performing. We'll have him on the show. And then again on Friday, we'll have John Barry in from Barry Law to talk about his book. And then right after today's show, I just learned this. Husker basketball, the men's team's kicking off their season tonight. I didn't even realize that. They're playing Texas Rio Grande Valley. Pregame starts at 6 o'clock right after the show tonight. Tip off at 7. You can hear it on KLIN. Well, Steve, one of the things I wanted to talk about was the polling. The Senator Fischer's polling, her personal polling shows that she has a over 7.5% lead over Dan Osborne. But we talked about this before. She's paid for that. Dan Osborne paid for his, which showed him up by 2. And so I'm going to go with the independent polls. Another independent poll from The Economist shows Senator Fischer up by 7, and the New York Times Siena College poll shows her up by 2%. So what do you think? Predictions in this race?
It's going to be late night tomorrow night. It's going to be a very late night. I'm looking forward to it, but gosh, I really see Fischer pulling this one off.
Yeah, and she sounded pretty confident as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. And I appreciate Senator Fischer coming on and kind of digging into that. Adam, we appreciate you texting in as well. Just wanting to hear more from Fischer and why she didn't debate Dan Osborne. So we appreciate that. All right. If you want to listen to a podcast of this show, go to KLIN.com or your favorite podcast service. Again, big thanks to Senator Deb Fischer for joining us today for an extended period of time. And special thanks to Steve taking care of my producer duties. There's only 82,200 seconds left until we see each other again, my friends. I want you to seize everyone. Husker men's basketball is up next. Have a great night.
From the Momo Pizzeria and Ristorante Studios, we are the voice of Lincoln, KLIN Lincoln.